The Imperial starship Eternal Dominion was the biggest ship in the entire Valari Empire. It was so large that smaller ships could land inside it. It was so beautiful, the poets wrote songs about its gleaming silver hull. And it was so important that only the most trusted servants of the Empire were allowed to work on it. Deep inside this magnificent ship, far below the golden halls where nobles walked, there was a place no one important ever visited: the recycling level. The air there smelled like old metal and cleaning chemicals. The lights flickered sometimes. The walls were stained with years of hard work. This was where Kang Do-yoon spent his days. He was 42 years old. His black hair had streaks of gray now. His hands were rough and covered with small scars from years of hard labor. He wore a simple gray uniform that marked him as what he was: a janitor. The lowest of the low. Do-hyun pushed his cleaning cart down the narrow hallway. The wheels squeaked with every turn. He had asked for new wheels 3 times now. Each time, his supervisor had laughed at him. Humans do not need good equipment, his supervisor always said. Humans are lucky we let them work at all. His supervisor was a Drothian named Gorthel. Drothians had 4 arms and blue skin. They were strong and proud. They had been part of the Valari Empire for over 1,000 years. They looked down on everyone who was not Valari or Drothian. They especially looked down on humans. Do-hyun stopped his cart and began to clean a waste pipe that had started to leak. The smell was terrible. Any other species would have complained. Any other species would have demanded better work. But Do-hyun just put on his mask and started working. He had learned to be quiet. He had learned to be invisible. In the 3 years since he had come aboard this ship, he had learned that silence was the only way to survive. Human. Gorthel's voice echoed down the hallway. The Drothian walked toward him with all 4 arms crossed over his chest. The waste processor in Section 7 is broken again. You need to fix it. Section 7 is not my area, Do-hyun said quietly. That belongs to the Fennec maintenance crew. The Fennec crew is busy with important work. You are not busy with important work. You are a human. You will do it. Gorthel leaned close to Do-hyun's face. His breath smelled like the spiced meat that Drothians love to eat. The Emperor himself is coming to this ship in 6 hours. If anything smells bad, if anything looks wrong, I will make sure you spend the next month cleaning garbage in open space. Do you understand? Do-hyun looked at the floor. I understand. Good. Gorthel turned and walked away, already forgetting about the human he had just threatened. Do-hyun watched him go. He felt something old and tired stir in his chest. It was a feeling he had pushed down many times before. Anger. Pride. The memory of who he used to be. Before the Valari came to Earth, Kang Do-hyun had been someone important. He had been Dr. Kang Do-yoon, the chief engineer of Korea's first starship program. He had spent 20 years designing engines that other scientists said were impossible. He had solved problems that the greatest minds on Earth could not solve. He had been so close to launching humanity's first true interstellar ship. So close to proving that humans could reach the stars on their own. Then the Valari arrived. They came with their massive fleet and their ancient technology. They came with smiles and promises of friendship. They said they wanted to welcome humanity into their great empire. They said humans would be treated as equals. They lied. Within a year, Earth was just another planet in the Valari Empire. Human governments still existed, but they answered to Valari governors. Human scientists still worked, but their research was taken by Valari corporations. And humans who showed too much talent, too much ambition, too much potential were quietly removed from Earth. Do-hyun had been one of those humans. He remembered the day they came for him. Valari soldiers in shining armor. A polite invitation to serve the Empire aboard one of their ships. His wife Somi had cried. His daughter Yuna only 12 years old, had held onto his hand and begged him not to go. "It is a great honor," the Valari commander had said. "Your family should be proud." That was 3 years ago. He had not seen his family since. He did not know if they were safe. He did not know if they were even alive. The Empire did not allow humans to send messages home. Do-Yoon pushed these memories away. They did not help him. They only made the days harder. He picked up his tools and began walking towards Section 7. The hallways grew darker as he moved deeper into the ship. Other workers passed him without looking. A group of Mikari engineers walked by, their silver eyes glancing at him with disgust. 2 Fennec mechanics stepped aside to let him pass, whispering to each other in their clicking language. Everyone on this ship was above him. Everyone on this ship looked down on him. He was human. He was nothing. But deep inside his mind, in a place he kept hidden from everyone, Do-Yoon still remembered who he really was. He still remembered the equations and designs that had made him famous on Earth. He still understood things about engines and power systems that these alien engineers had never even imagined. He was not just a janitor. He was a genius wearing a janitor's uniform. And someday, somehow, the galaxy would learn the truth. Do-Yoon reached Section 7 and found the broken waste processor. He looked at it carefully. The problem was simple. A coupling had come loose. The Fennec mechanics had probably knocked it. While doing other work, he could fix it in 5 minutes. But no one would thank him. No one would notice. He would just go back to pushing his squeaky cart through dark hallways, waiting for the next insult, the next order, the next reminder that humans were nothing in this vast empire. He started working. The Emperor was coming, and everything was about to change. The shuttle carrying Emperor Thazrael landed in the main docking bay at exactly the time it was supposed to. The Emperor was never late. The Emperor was never early. Time itself seemed to obey his commands. 200 soldiers stood in perfect lines on either side of the red carpet. Their armor was polished until it shone like mirrors. Their weapons were held at exactly the right angle. Not one of them moved. Not one of them breathed too loudly. Admiral Korath stood at the front of the welcome party. He had commanded the Eternal Dominion for 30 years. He had won 12 major battles. He had crushed rebellions and conquered planets. But right now, his hands were shaking. Meeting the Emperor always made him nervous. The shuttle door opened with a soft hiss. First came the Imperial Guards, huge Valari warriors with golden scales and eyes like burning coals. Then came the nobles, dressed in robes that cost more than most planets earned in a year. Then came the advisors and the priests and the servants. And finally, Emperor Thazrael himself stepped out. He was old. So old that no one really knew his true age. Some said he was 500 years old. Some said 1,000. Some whispered that he had found a way to live forever. His scales were deep purple, the color of royalty. They glowed with soft bioluminescent patterns that changed with his mood. Right now, they pulsed slowly, showing that he was calm and pleased. Behind him walked Princess Velaya, his only daughter. She was beautiful in the cold way that a knife is beautiful. Her scales were lighter than her father's, almost silver. Her eyes were sharp and cruel. She smiled at the soldiers as she passed, but it was not a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who enjoyed watching others suffer. Admiral Korath dropped to one knee. Everyone in the docking bay did the same. "Rise," the Emperor said. His voice was soft, but it carried across the entire bay. "We are among friends here." Korath stood up. "Your Majesty, it is the greatest honor to welcome you aboard the Eternal Dominion. We have prepared a tour of the ship's finest features. The weapons arrays, the navigation bridge, the royal quarters that have been prepared for your stay. Excellent. The Emperor began walking toward the main corridor. I have heard much about this ship. Let us see if it lives up to its reputation. The tour began. They walked through the grand hallways. Every wall was decorated with gold and precious stones. Every floor was polished until it reflected like water. Servants stood at every corner, ready to offer food or drink or anything else the Emperor might desire. The Emperor seemed pleased. He nodded at the weapons arrays and asked intelligent questions about their power. He praised the navigation bridge and its advanced systems. He admired the view from the observation deck, where 1,000 stars sparkled in the endless darkness. Princess Valaya walked beside her father, looking bored. She had seen 100 ships. She had visited 1,000 planets. Nothing impressed her anymore. "This is adequate," she said as they toured the royal quarters. "Though I expected larger rooms." Admiral Karth swallowed nervously. "We can arrange for." The lights flickered. Everyone stopped walking. Everyone looked up. The lights flickered again. Then they went out completely. For 3 terrifying seconds, the most powerful beings in the galaxy stood in total darkness. The emergency lights came on, filling everything with dim red light. A deep groaning sound echoed through the walls. It was the kind of sound a ship made when something was very, very wrong. Alarms started screaming. "What is happening?" The Emperor's voice was no longer soft. It was hard and sharp like a blade. Admiral Karth pulled out his communicator. His hands were shaking badly now. "Bridge, report. What is going on?" The voice that came back was filled with panic. "Admiral, the primary fusion core is destabilizing. We have a containment field failure. Our engineers are trying to fix it, but, Admiral, we cannot stop it." The groaning sound grew louder. The floor vibrated beneath their feet. Everyone understood what this meant. The fusion core was the heart of the ship. It created the power that kept everything running. If the containment field failed completely, the core would explode. And when a fusion core exploded, it did not just destroy the ship. It created a ball of fire hotter than a sun. Everything within 1,000 kilometers would be turned to dust. The Emperor, the Princess, the Admiral, every soldier, every servant, every person on the ship. All of them would die. How long? Admiral Karth demanded. "Maybe 30 minutes. Maybe less. We do not know." The nobles began to panic. Some of them screamed. Some of them pushed toward the doors, trying to reach the escape shuttles. The soldiers tried to keep order, but fear was spreading like a disease. Silence. The Emperor's voice cut through the chaos. Everyone froze. "Admiral, can this be fixed?" Karth looked at his communicator as if it might give him a miracle. "Our engineers are the best in the Empire, Majesty. If anyone can fix this, they can. Then take me to engineering. I want to see this for myself." The Admiral looked horrified. "Majesty, it is not safe. You should evacuate. We can have you on a shuttle in 5 minutes." Emperor Thazriel turned to look at Korath. His bioluminescent scales had changed. They now pulsed with angry red light. "I have ruled this empire for longer than your great-grandfather was alive. I have faced assassins and traitors in wars that killed billions. I do not run from problems. I solve them." He began walking toward the engineering section. Princess Valaya followed, a strange smile on her face. She seemed almost excited. Watching her father in action was always entertaining. Admiral Karth had no choice. He followed too, praying to every god. He knew that his engineers could perform a miracle dot, because if they could not, this would be the last day any of them ever saw. The groaning sound continued, growing louder and louder like the heartbeat of a dying giant. Time was running out. The engineering bay was a place of chaos and fear. Dozens of Valari engineers ran between control panels. Their fingers moved across holographic displays. Their voices shouted over each other. Warning lights flashed red and orange and yellow, painting everything in colors of danger. At the center of the room stood the main control station. A huge Valari named Thasian was working there. He was the chief engineer of the Eternal Dominion. He had designed half the systems on this ship himself. He had won awards from the Imperial Science Academy. He was supposed to be one of the smartest beings in the entire Empire. Right now, he looked terrified. Try reversing the polarity of the secondary coils. He shouted. Already tried. Someone shouted back. It made things worse. Then increase power to the magnetic containment. We cannot. The generators are already at maximum. The groaning sound filled the room. The floor shook. On the displays, a timer counted down. 24 minutes until core breach. Emperor Thazrio walked into this chaos like a king walking into a burning castle. His face showed no fear. His steps were calm and steady. Behind him came Princess Valaya, Admiral Korath, and a dozen guards and nobles who looked like they wanted to be anywhere else in the galaxy. Report, the Emperor commanded. Thasian turned around so fast he almost fell. When he saw the Emperor, his face went pale. Your Majesty, you should not be here. It is too dangerous. I did not ask for safety advice. I asked for a report. Why is my ship dying? Thasian swallowed hard. The primary fusion core has developed a containment field instability. The magnetic coils that keep the reaction contained are failing. We are trying everything we know, but nothing is working. Why? We do not know. Thasian's voice cracked. The coils were working perfectly this morning. There was no warning, no sign of damage. It just started failing. Emperor Thazriel looked at the control displays. The numbers and symbols meant nothing to him, but he could see the fear in his engineer's eyes. That told him everything. Can you fix it or not? Thasian opened his mouth. He wanted to say yes. He wanted to promise a miracle. But lies would not help anyone now. I do not know, Majesty. We are doing everything we can. 22 minutes to core breach, the ship's computer announced. Its voice was calm and mechanical, completely unaware that it was counting down to the death of everyone aboard. The nobles began whispering. Some of them were crying. One of them fainted and had to be carried away. It was then that Princess Valaya noticed the human. The Yun had been in Section 7 when the alarm started. He had been close to the engineering bay, so he had come to see what was happening. Now he stood in the corner, watching the chaos with quiet eyes. He understood the problem. He had understood it within 30 seconds of looking at the displays. The magnetic coils were fine. The fusion core was fine. The problem was the harmonic dampeners. Someone had modified them to increase efficiency, but they had created a feedback loop with the cooling system. The whole containment field was vibrating itself apart. It was such a simple mistake. Such an easy fix. But the Valari engineers could not see it. They were looking for big problems. They were looking for broken parts and damaged systems. They could not imagine that their own improvements had caused this disaster. Do-Hyun said nothing. He had learned to be invisible. He had learned that humans who spoke up were punished. But Princess Valaya had sharp eyes. She saw him standing there. She saw his calm face in a room full of panic. And she decided to have some fun. Father, she said loudly, look at this. There is a human here. Everyone turned to look at Do-Hyun. He felt 100 eyes on him. Alien eyes. Superior eyes. Eyes that saw him as nothing more than an animal that had learned to walk upright. A human on my flagship? The Emperor raised one scaled eyebrow. I did not know we employed such primitive creatures. He must be one of the cleaning servants, Admiral Korath said quickly. I apologize, Majesty. I will have him removed immediately. Wait. Princess Valaya walked toward Do-Yun. Her silver scales glittered in the warning lights. Her cruel smile grew wider. I want to ask him something. She stopped right in front of him. She was taller than him by almost a head. She looked down at him like a child looks at a bug before stepping on it. Human, do you know what is happening? Do-Hyun kept his eyes on the floor. The ship is in danger, Princess. Yes, it is. My father's finest engineers cannot fix the problem. They have studied for hundreds of years. They have knowledge that your primitive species cannot even imagine. She laughed. It was a beautiful, terrible sound. Tell me, human, do you think you could fix it? The nobles laughed too. Even some of the panicking engineers managed weak smiles. The idea was so ridiculous. A human janitor fixing a Valari fusion core. It was like asking a fish to climb a mountain. Answer her, the Emperor said. He was not laughing. His ancient eyes studied the human with cold curiosity. Do-Yun looked up. For 3 years, he had been silent. For 3 years, he had hidden who he really was. For 3 years, he had let them mock him and insult him and treat him like dirt. But everyone on this ship was about to die. His death did not matter. But somewhere on Earth, his wife and daughter were waiting for him to come home. If he stayed silent now, he would never see them again. Yes, he said quietly. I can fix it. The laughter stopped. Princess Valaya blinked. She had expected him to bow and apologize. She had expected him to be embarrassed. She had not expected this. What did you say? Do-Hyun met her eyes. Something changed in his face. The tired janitor disappeared. Something older and stronger took his place. I said I can fix it. Give me 5 minutes. 19 minutes to core breach. The computer announced that no one was laughing now. The engineering bay was completely silent. Every engineer had stopped working. Every noble had stopped whispering. Every guard had stopped breathing. They all stared at the human janitor who had just claimed he could save the ship. Chief Engineer Thausian was the first to speak. His voice was filled with anger. This is insane. This human is delusional. He probably does not even know what a fusion core is. I know what a fusion core is, Do-Hyun said calmly. I know how it works. And I know exactly why yours is failing. Impossible. Thausian stepped toward him, all 400 pounds of angry Valari. I designed the modifications to this core myself. I have studied fusion engineering for 300 years. What could a primitive human possibly know that I do not? Do-Hyun looked at him without fear. Your modifications are killing the ship. The silence somehow became even deeper. What? Thausian's voice was barely a whisper. 3 years ago, you modified the harmonic dampeners on the containment system. You increased their efficiency by 12%. The Imperial Science Academy gave you an award for it. Do-Hyun walked toward the main control display. But you did not account for the resonance feedback from the secondary cooling system. At certain temperatures, the dampeners and the cooling system vibrate at almost the same frequency. When that happens, they amplify each other instead of canceling each other out. He pointed at a series of numbers on the display. Look at your containment field readings. The field is not collapsing. It is oscillating. The vibrations are getting bigger and bigger with each cycle. In about 17 minutes, they will get so big that the field will tear itself apart. Everyone looked at the numbers. Even the nobles, who understood nothing about engineering, could see the pattern. The readings were going up and down, like waves getting bigger and bigger. That is, Thausian stared at the display. His face had gone from angry to shocked to pale. That is not possible. I tested those modifications for months. There was no resonance feedback. You tested them at normal operating temperature, Do-hyun said. The problem only appears when the core runs hot for a long time. How long has this ship been traveling at maximum speed? Admiral Korath answered. 6 days. We were rushing to meet His Majesty's schedule. Do-hyun nodded. 6 days at maximum speed. The core has been running hotter than usual for 6 days. That is when the resonance started building. It was probably small at first, but it got bigger and bigger until your containment field started failing. He turned to look at the Emperor. I can fix this, but I need access to the dampener controls. Emperor Thasriel had not moved during this entire conversation. His ancient eyes had been watching the human with intense focus. Now he spoke, and his voice was calm and thoughtful. You speak like an engineer. I was an engineer, Do-hyun said, before your empire came to my planet. Before I was brought here to clean floors. 15 minutes to core breach. The computer announced that the Emperor made his decision. Give him access. Your Majesty. Thasian looked horrified. You cannot be serious. He is a human. He is a janitor. If he touches these controls, he could make things worse. Things cannot get much worse, the Emperor said dryly. We have 15 minutes until we all die. What do we have to lose? Thasian had no answer for that. Do-hyun walked to the dampener control panel. The other engineers stepped back, watching him with a mixture of fear and curiosity. He took a deep breath and placed his hands on the controls. The displays were all in the Valari language. The numbers used the Valari counting system. The interfaces were designed for beings with different hands and different eyes. None of that mattered. Do-hyun's mind was already working. He was not seeing alien symbols anymore. He was seeing the patterns behind them. The physics. The mathematics. The universal laws that did not care whether you were human or Valari or anything else. His fingers began to move. What is he doing? One of the nobles whispered. He is adjusting the dampener frequencies, an engineer said quietly. He's changing their phase alignment. Why? I do not know. I have never seen anyone adjust them like this. Do-hyun worked faster. Numbers changed on the displays. Warning lights flickered. The groaning sound that had filled the ship began to change. It was getting quieter. The oscillation is decreasing. One of the engineers shouted. The resonance feedback is stopping. That is impossible, Thasian said. But his voice was weak. He was watching the displays with wide eyes. Do-hyun kept working. His face was calm. His hands were steady. He looked like a musician playing a familiar song, every movement smooth and perfect. 4 minutes had passed. Core containment is stabilizing. Another engineer called out. The field is holding steady. How? Thasian whispered. How is he doing this? Do-hyun made one last adjustment. Then he stepped back from the control panel. The groaning sound stopped. The warning lights turned off. One by one, the timer on the display froze at 12 minutes. Then it disappeared completely. Core containment stable, the ship's computer announced. All systems nominal. The silence in the engineering bay was absolute. Do-hyun turned around. Every being in the room was staring at him. The engineers, the nobles, the guards, the princess, the emperor. It is fixed, he said simply. You will need to recalibrate the dampeners properly when you have time. The modification itself is not bad. You just need to add a phase buffer to prevent the resonance feedback. No one spoke. No one moved. Chief Engineer Thasian looked at his displays. Then he looked at the human. Then he looked at his displays again. His entire understanding of the universe was falling apart around him. 4 minutes and 37 seconds, he said finally. His voice was hollow. You fixed a problem in 4 minutes and 37 seconds that my entire team could not solve. Do-hyun shrugged. Humans are good at solving problems. It is what we do. Princess Valaya started laughing. But it was not the cruel laugh from before. It was the shocked laugh of someone who had just seen something impossible. Father, she said, I think we have made a terrible mistake about these humans. The Emperor did not laugh. He was looking at Do-hyun with an expression that no one had ever seen on his face before. Respect. The engineering bay slowly came back to life. Engineers returned to their stations. Guards lowered their weapons. Nobles stopped crying and started straightening their expensive robes. The crisis was over. The ship was safe. Everyone could breathe again, but no one could stop staring at the human janitor. Emperor Thazrael walked toward Do-hyun. His steps were slow and deliberate. The bioluminescent patterns on his scales had changed again. They now pulsed with a soft golden color that none of his servants had ever seen before. He stopped directly in front of Do-hyun. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. What is your name, human? The Emperor finally asked. Kang Do-hyun. Kang Do-hyun. The Emperor repeated the name carefully, learning its strange sounds. Tell me, Kang Do-hyun, how does a janitor know more about fusion engineering than the finest minds in my empire? Do-hyun looked at the Emperor without lowering his eyes. 3 years of silence. 3 years of hiding. It was time for truth. Before your ships came to Earth, I was the chief engineer of my country's space program. I designed propulsion systems. I built engines that other scientists thought were impossible. He paused. Then your empire arrived. You told us we would be partners. You told us we would be equals. But you took our scientists and made them servants. You took our engineers and made them janitors. His voice was not angry. It was just tired. Tired and sad. You saw humans as primitive because we were young. You saw us as stupid because we had not traveled the stars yet. But you never asked what we could do. You never asked what we had learned from thousands of years of struggle. Admiral Korath stepped forward. You should not speak to the Emperor this way. Let him speak. The Emperor's voice was sharp. I want to hear this. Do-hyun continued. Humans have always had to fight for everything. Our planet is dangerous. Our history is full of war and disaster. We learned to solve problems because we had to. We learned to innovate because standing still meant death. He gestured at the control panels around them. Your empire is ancient and powerful. But because you have been powerful for so long, you have forgotten how to struggle. Your engineers are brilliant, but they only know what they were taught. When something new happens, something outside their experience, they do not know what to do. He looked at Chief Engineer Thasian. I do not say this to insult you. Your modifications were clever. Your science is advanced. But you have had everything handed to you for so long that you have forgotten how to see problems from new angles. Thasian wanted to argue, but he could not. The human had just done in 4 minutes what he and his team could not do at all. Emperor Thazrael was quiet for a long time. He was thinking about his empire. 900 star systems. Trillions of beings. Thousands of years of history. And in all that time, he had never stopped to wonder what the lesser species might offer. He had seen humans as workers, as servants, as tools to be used and discarded. He had never seen them as people. I owe you a debt, the Emperor said slowly. You saved my life today. You saved my daughter's life. You saved this ship and everyone on it. He reached up and removed a small medallion from his own chest. It was made of pure gold, with a purple gem at its center. Every Valari in the room gasped when they saw it. This is the seal of imperial voice, the Emperor explained. It gives the holder the right to speak with my authority. It has not been given to a non-Valari in 4,000 years. He held it out to Da-Young. Take it. Do-Hyun looked at the medallion. It was beautiful. It was powerful. It was powerful. With this seal, he could have anything he wanted. Wealth, freedom, a ship of his own. He could go home to Earth. He could see his wife and daughter again, but he did not take it. Not yet. Before I accept this, I have conditions. The room went silent again. The nobles looked shocked. The guards looked angry. No one negotiated with the emperor. No one. But Emperor Thazrael just smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. You bargain with an emperor. You really are an interesting species. He tilted his head. Name your conditions. There are millions of humans in your empire, Do-Hyun said. They are doing the jobs no one else wants. They are cleaning floors and hauling garbage and working in the most dangerous places. They are being laughed at and mocked and treated like animals. He stepped closer to the emperor. I want that to change. Not just for me. For all of them. I want humans to have real positions. Real opportunities. I want them to be able to show what they can do. You could ask for anything, Princess Valaya said. Palaces, planets, power beyond imagination. And you ask for opportunities for your people. I do not need palaces, Do-Hyun said simply. But my people need a chance. That is worth more than all the gold in your empire. Emperor Thazrael looked at the human for a long, long moment. Then he did something no one expected. He laughed. It was not a cruel laugh or a mocking laugh. It was the surprised laugh of someone who had just discovered something wonderful. In 900 years, I have never met anyone like you, the emperor said. Every other being I have known would have asked for power and wealth. But you asked for nothing for yourself. He placed the medallion in Do-Hyun's hand. I accept your conditions. From this day forward, humans in my empire will be given the chance to prove themselves. Those with talent will be recognized. Those with ability will be promoted. And you will oversee it all. Do-Hyun looked down at the medallion. It felt heavy in his hand. Heavy with responsibility. Heavy with hope. There is one more thing I need, he said quietly. Name it. My family. My wife Somi and my daughter Yuna. I have not seen them in 3 years. I do not even know if they are safe. The emperor nodded. They will be found. They will be brought to you. And they will want for nothing for the rest of their lives. Tears appeared in Do-Hyun's eyes. He had not cried in 3 years. He had not allowed himself to feel hope. But now, finally, he could let himself believe. He could go home. Thank you, he said. His voice was thick with emotion. Emperor Thazrael placed a hand on Do-Hyun's shoulder. It was a gesture he had never shown to any non-Valari. No, he said. Thank you for reminding me that wisdom can come from anywhere, and that the smallest species might hold the greatest surprises. He turned to address everyone in the engineering bay. Let it be known throughout the empire. Humans are no longer to be treated as lesser beings. They have earned their place among us. As the emperor walked away, followed by his nobles and guards, Do-Hyun stood alone in the engineering bay. He looked at the medallion in his hand. He looked at the control panels around him. He looked out the window at the stars that humans had always dreamed of reaching. His people had finally arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same.